In this part of the training, we share a few different psychological and behavioral models that hopefully will help you build up the tools in your toolbox for working with your group. The first is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a separate video sharing a basic overview of the theory. But what we want you to think about here is that this is not so much a predictor of human behavior, but more like an algorithm for how to check in with your group. Most people won't be able to think about making new friends or learning anything until they feel like their physiological and safety needs are met. If someone's only thought is for, am I going to survive this when I'm hungry and I don't know when we're eating, I'm cold and I'm tired and I don't feel good, they're not going to be ready to make friends. As a trip leader, the best way that you can help people move beyond this is to communicate what your plan is. Make sure that they feel like they know when we're going to have snacks and rest breaks, that you have a plan for making sure that there's enough water, and that they feel safe, making sure that they know the things that you are doing and the things that they can do to mitigate risk will help them feel like they can start to talk to people and maybe make some new friends, maybe even challenge themselves and learn something new. Self-actualization can be thought of as the broader goal of every trip. And as we say, that goal is to have fun, which can mean a lot of things. But in general, just know that making sure people have their needs met is a great way to ensure that they will be more successful on the trip. This next theory of group development has a lovely rhyming mnemonic scheme: forming, norming, performing, storming, and transforming. Transforming can be thought of as self-actualization from the hierarchy of needs, or again, the goal of the trip. And it sounds very fancy, but realistically, it just means that you've learned or gained something from being part of the group. The most important part of this process is norming. This is the time when you get to establish for the group how you think that their behavior should be. And it starts as soon as you are first sending out an email to your group, or when you first get together behind Robinson with your and are about to get in a van, or you're first find your trippies and are putting that group together. You have an opportunity as the leader to establish some norms. And some things you will want to be very explicit about. Hey, we're going to be doing these things to stay safe. If anybody has questions, make sure you ask them. I really want to be responsive to your feedback, and we need everybody to treat everybody else with respect. There are lots of different things that you can establish. What's important is that you choose which things you really need to be explicit about, which things you can just lead by example, and which things are okay for the group to come up with themselves. You won't have time to establish every single norm the way you'd like, but the more you can do at the beginning, the less you will have to fight the group when it comes to storming, which is when groups try to push against those norms and find out if the leader's really serious about them. And if everything goes well, the group will transform and learn something, grow together. Most people are familiar with the comfort zone model. They've heard the phrase, but what we really want you to think about is these different dimensions of the comfort zone. Most people know that if you're smack in the middle of your comfort zone, it can be a little bit boring. Really, where you want most people to be is in that learning zone. You're challenging yourself just enough so that you are not bored and you're feeling like you are engaged and interested. When that challenge becomes too extreme, it pushes people into the panic zone where they can experience anxiety and fear, and that really causes them to shut right down. If you go back to the hierarchy of needs, it will make people focus on, am I just going to survive this? It's very easy to think of the comfort zone purely in terms of physical danger or technical ability. We encourage you to think about some different dimensions, like social comfort zone. If someone is in a group of entirely new people, that can push them out of their comfort zone and potentially into their panic zone right away because they're worried about making a good impression. They're worried about being awkward. They want to make new friends and meet people. For some people who are beginners, just being outside can put them outside of their comfort zone. There are bugs on my skin. I have to poop in a hole in the ground, and I can't get warm or dry by going into a building. We find that this is one of the most common ways that group dynamics go sideways on a trip, particularly if you have someone who is very experienced or very comfortable in a number of ways, who is pushing the group to move faster or do more advanced things, and you have some other folks who are already pushing outside their comfort zone just to be there. One of the best ways to balance that out is to bring that person who is bored onto your team. Hey, I'm going to challenge your social comfort zone by asking you to get to know some of these newer beginners. Go have a conversation with this person who it's their first time. Maybe give them some advice. Obviously, you want to be careful about making sure that that person is behaving appropriately, but it can really challenge someone's abilities and push them into a growth zone if you make them into a teacher and make them into a co-leader with you, whether formally or informally. And that can solve two problems by giving some extra support to some of those folks who are really panicking just because they haven't done this thing before, or they're brand new to the out of doors, or they're just don't know anybody else on the trip and they need a connection to start. These three models, again, are psychological theories. They are by no means prescriptive, but hopefully they will give you some tools in your toolbox to help you manage your group.